Alrighty, do we have everyone we need here? Have a staff and an applicant, so. Alrighty, the time's 1:01. We're coming back from out of recess from our morning session. Amanda, could you call the roll, please? Here.
Here.
Here. Alrighty, we got two land use items today. One a final plat, the other a rezone. The first is Elbert Hill filing 2. I'd accept a motion to open public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion. We open the public hearing on Elbert Hill filing 2 final plat case FP-21-0090.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing. Matthew, the floor is yours.
Got it. Good afternoon, commissioners and guests. This is a presentation for Elbert Hill filing 2 final plat. And just to cover it, this was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission on April 19th last month. This is a request for a final plat, which is a subdivision action of approximately 87 acres of already zoned AR land into 8 lots of 10 plus acres. This location generally is County Road 1 or Elbert Road and County Road 178. Landowner in this particular case is 44 Elbert LLC, and the applicant and representative is CJ Curse of Tahoe Consulting. Generally speaking, the location is in the northwestern corner of the county, bordering Douglas. To recap on the process for this application, a pre-app was held last fall in September. Application formally was reviewed starting at December 20th, going through February, and again, the Planning Commission heard this application on April 19th and recommended approval for our hearing here today. I will attest that the notification was completed per the zoning and subdivision regulations for this application. To give you a little bit of an aerial view of the property, we have a very odd shape here. That's because we have a previous approval of the original Elbert Hills minor residential subdivision. What I will state, because there's some confusion over verbiage, I should say that minor subdivisions at the time were up to 7 lots. So in this particular instance, we are subdividing 8 lots, which is a major plat application, but we'll be taking the remaining 86 or so acres from what was left over from the previous approval. In looking at the zoning, we have a wide range of density in the area, from very large lot properties directly to the east, as well as some smaller lots in Meadow Station and then Spring Hills Ranch to the north, as well as some other minor subdivisions in the area as well. So, as I might have brought up previously for a previous application we had heard about a month ago, a preliminary plat waiver was requested by the applicant in this particular situation. Again, the preliminary plat was not materially aiding the review of this final plat application, as is the case in most smaller, less than 10 lot subdivisions. Therefore, the CDS director was able to respond to this waiver and approved it on February 15th of this year. So in looking over the site plan, this generally is how the 8 lots will be laid out over here. One of the discussion points during the Planning Commission hearing was in regards to this lot located generally in the center of the property that was previously approved with the original plat. There is a driveway, I believe, that's still being used by that property owner, and it's a matter of time essentially before that is removed and access is further drawn here. It's just no changes have been made on the property since that approval was made in about 2019. From the review time, the concern that CDS had was in regards to lot frontage being met in the subdivision. There's a 250-foot minimum lot frontage for AR zoning. So how we address this was there will be a plat note and as a condition to make sure that this frontage is adhered to for setback measurement. As for Wrangell Court, which is the roadway that ends on the north with this cul-de-sac and also in the south with that cul-de-sac, there was generally concerns over this filing having two access points essentially. How this came up in the Planning Commission, how it's been addressed since, is that the Rattlesnake Fire Department was keen to sign off on not having additional access to Delbert Road, that was not a favored decision to be made. And according to the Elbert County Road and Bridge standards, yes, for subdivisions greater than 7 lots, a second point of access would be needed. However, in this particular situation, standard road and bridge practice, at least in this instance, is willing to take the fire department's guidance in this particular situation and not require that secondary point of access, which would be extending Wrangell Court to Delbert Road. So that was not required as a part of this process. In looking at the referral responses that we had, the Division of Water requested an augmentation plan, which was completed. There was some miscorrelation between the core easements that were on the property. Those have been reflected correctly. Again, I wanted to say at the time of pre-application, Rattlesnake Fire District was keen to waive that secondary access to Delbert Road or County Road 1. Douglas County, from the referral process, addressed impact fees, which have found themselves in the conditions. And then we had a standard procedure or protocol from the Public Health Department in terms of applying for septic permits at the time of development. So in looking at the final plat criteria, we have a couple items that I can walk through with you all here. So in looking at the water supply and reviewing this with the Division of Water Resources, the augmentation plan is to make sure that these 8 lots have sufficient water supply for 300 years, and the applicant was able to get those necessary approvals and gain the adequacy letter from DWR that we look for before bringing to public hearing. In looking at sewage disposal, we're not proposing, or it's not being proposed, that there will be a central sewage system in this situation. Each lot will be able to apply for and receive, pending application and review, their own OWTS systems. And then in looking at topographical conditions, there wasn't any concern really during the referral process about topographical conditions. The necessary studies were provided by the applicant and reviewed in the previous approval as well as this one as well, and there were no concerns raised from that review. In looking at compliance with the zoning regulations and the subdivision regulations, staff can attest that this application meets those standards in the zoning and subdivision regulations. And in general, looking at the comprehensive plan, a lot of these smaller plat applications that we have are applicable to the community resources topic area, in that new development should conform to state laws regarding water supply and septic systems, and the natural resource topic area, where new developments should minimize negative impacts to surrounding properties. With the findings that this project and this application is in general conformance with the comprehensive plan, meets the criteria for approval in the subdivision regulations, that it's compatible with the existing and allowable land uses in the area, and that the proposal will not result in a significant impact to surrounding landowners, the Planning Commission and Community and Development Services recommend the Board of County Commissioners approve the requested Delbert Hill filing to final plat, subject to the following conditions. And the first 3 are standard conditions for zoning and subdivision approvals, and that the public hearing sign shall be removed within 7 days of this decision, that the rezoning, that is a believe that should be final plat. The final plat shall not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the exhibits are recorded. That this recordation should occur within 180 days of this decision, and in line with the referral that we received from the Douglas County School District, that CDS has provided a receipt of that payment being made for that impact fee requirement. And I'll conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Matthew. Excuse me. Any questions for staff at this time? Okay, I'd invite the applicant up. Afternoon, CJ. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. CJ Kirst, Tahoe Consulting, 5730 East Otero Avenue, Suite 200, Centennial, Colorado, 80112. Appreciate your guys' time here. Matt did a really good job of explaining this. It's something that we've all really kind of been paying attention to as of the last year or two with the road going in, and those two cul-de-sacs were built simultaneously. The first 6 10-acre lots, so to speak, have been recorded, and nothing's been built on them yet, but I think the plan once we get these final 8 is that you're going to start seeing a lot of activity on all 14 of these lots. So it's good to finally be at this point. As far as the conditions of approval, we obviously agree to all of those. Don't have anything more to add, but can answer any questions.
Questions or comments?
Just a quick question. The cash in lieu of open space, when were you thinking of paying that?
Yeah, what we'd like to do is take the county up on the offer, I think, that still is out there, that it would be paid at the time of, not before final plat, but at the time of lot sales or building permit, I think is when it's collected. We understand that there's a higher cost associated with that, but that's what the landowner's choice is here.
Okay. Just for the build out, do you anticipate sale of all the lots to one builder, or are you going after custom? Or
I don't think so. I think maybe 2 or 3 at the most. I don't really think this will be 1 or 8. I think it's just going to be a couple.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty straightforward and exactly, I guess, what we've been anticipating for about 4 years.
Right, exactly.
And yeah, I know that's a pretty long cul-de-sac, but there's 5 of the 8 lots directly access off other roads. So, yeah, I mean, there might not be an access built, but there's only about 4 that are dependent on that road and open prairie. So, anything, Rick? Yeah, so you had said you were okay with the conditions, so unless there's other discussion, I will open this up for public comment. Amanda, we didn't receive anything that I'm aware of. But okay. So with that, I'll close public comment, and I would accept a motion on this application.
I'll make a motion. We approve Delbert Hill Filing 2 Final Plat, case FP-21-0090.
Second.
Okay, just friendly amendment with the conditions as approved? Or
And you accepted the conditions of approval.
second remains?
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move we close the public hearing on Delbert Hill Filing 2-FP-21-0090.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. We're out of public hearing. All righty. Look, okay, we're teed up for our next item, which is a rezone for Pedestio Brothers. I would accept a motion to open public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion. We open public hearing on Pedestio Brothers rezone case RZ-21-0073.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to open public hearing on the Pedestio Brothers rezone. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We're in public hearing. Matthew, the floor is yours.
Sure. And this is the presentation for the Patessio Brothers rezone, RZ210073. And to provide a little background, this is a rezoning request from agriculture A to industrial I. It appears there's another agriculture on there, typo. Location generally is 3890 County Road 174 Parker. This might be better known as the former Hunt Estate off of County Road 174. The landowner in this particular case is 3890 County Road 174 LLC, and they are represented by Tom Maroney. He's not present here, but one of the landowner's representatives is here. Generally speaking, in the northwestern corner of the county is where this proposal can be found, just off of County Road 13 and 174 directly. So for the process, a pre-application was held on October 20th of last year. A formal application was submitted just before the holidays and had a single referral process. This was heard by the Planning Commission on April 19th. That was recommended for approval at that time. Some of the discussion that occurred during that hearing was in regards to the community meeting that was held, I want to say, in November. There was some concerns, especially because this was a rezoning application opposed to a plat or any different application for that matter, that there was concerns about items such as lighting or traffic, for example. And for a rezoning request, making those types of changes or amendments to an application, there was some difficulty for staff being able to line up the types of compliance that we needed to have here. Generally speaking, a zoning compliance letter was issued back in 2019 that this property was not in compliance with the zoning regulations. As it's been understood during the Planning Commission that this was sold as a commercial property, but was an ag property, but had a special use permit for the full rut archery facility. So there was a little bit of confusion during that time of sale, and it's really been a push of the property owners to try to achieve compliance in this situation. So giving you a little bit of an aerial look, I apologize that the red is bleeding through a little bit, but when it was initially applied for, it was also applied for as a partial rezone, as a 70-acre property. After the referral process, we felt it would be helpful to have that property split into two 35-acre properties so that we wouldn't have a non-compliance with the zoning regulations in terms of a partial rezone, or even potentially worse or undesired in that category, having 70 acres of industrial land essentially in one spot. So in looking at the zoning in the area, it's flanked almost on all sides, or at least to the north and the east, by Spring Valley Ranch and smaller subdivisions in Cherry Ridge, and some slightly larger subdivisions in Rambling Rose Estates, Wild Rose Estates, and Deer Creek Ranch. Generally speaking, the property that is zoned RA next to it, I believe, is still 35 acres. I'm not sure the history behind that property, but generally speaking, it has the same type of category and usage as the properties surrounding it as well. So in looking at some of the site details that we have here, the use that we felt was most applicable for this review was agricultural equipment sales, rental, and repair. Although no sales are occurring on the property, this really is the best fit within our use table. And for that matter, it is a use by right within the industrial district, something that we wanted to impress upon. The other detail that was left out is that the side setback for the industrial zone would be met in this particular situation with the existing structure. Another reason why we had proposed the industrial zoning. As I touched on before, we don't have any other industrial zoning in proximity. It was mentioned during the Planning Commission hearing that there were, I believe it was a water station or something for Spring Valley Ranch even, that there is a little bit of break in that agriculture and residential use in the area that we can make note of. And again, I've touched on a lot of these points already. The main thing I want to hammer home is that there have been no physical changes to buildings or structures in the area since the time of sale. And according to the applicant and the property owner, no changes are proposed as a part of this application. Yes, as a part of this application. In looking at the referral responses, we did reach back out to some agencies after the fact. We did get some responses that were included in your packet, primarily from the building department and public health. These were comments that were not collected during the time of referral, but after increased conversations went on, we dug a little bit further and got some additional information. And these items really came in as conditions that we found out that a septic inspection would be needed by the public health department, which we have conditioned, as well as getting a change in occupancy permit for the building department. The caveat about that is that for that building permit to kick in, a site development plan would be required. Because we've solicited some concerns on lighting, traffic, and the like, we've made that as a condition of approval as well, that because this isn't a special use, there is some allowances with a special use to be able to look at some of those items and satisfy that criteria. But since that's not being done, we will be requesting that site development plan so we can cover all those bases. And then in general, I do have the word omitted up by the Division of Water Resources. I had sent out to them, not knowing or not having the information that they received water from Spring Valley, which they have provided a will serve in that matter and signed off on that service. So I'm looking over the rezoning criteria to industrial, or all requests for that matter. We'll look over the final, or the next 6 criteria here. Whether this is consistent with the comprehensive plan, again, that new developments should minimize negative impacts to surrounding properties. Staff has found generally that the Potestios have been good neighbors and have done the best that they can with their property in this particular instance. And in general, that the county should encourage new development to connect to existing water and wastewater sources. They are connecting to Spring Valley and being able to have their use by a central water system and that infrastructure. In looking at the economic development comprehensive plan goals, that the county should encourage the recruitment, expansion, and diversification of the industrial economic base to achieve a well-balanced economy. We felt that that is applicable in this situation, as well as economic development that minimizes impact on surrounding lands and supporting generally the development of agricultural, commerce, industry, education, healthcare, natural resources, and residential growth in the area. And whether the proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses, this is perhaps the biggest stretch for us, that the surrounding lands are agricultural, they are being used as residence or are undeveloped or vacant, or in the process of being developed into larger, higher density subdivisions, primarily in Spring Valley Ranch, and that this property had been used for non-residential use for some time, that this is not really something new that's being proposed. The emphasis being during the review that nothing is changing, that really the Potestio use is meant to take advantage of what is already available on the property. So with that being in mind, with some of the size of the structures that they have on there ranging from 7,000 to 8,000 square feet, that a lot of that work is being conducted indoors and really being able to buffer a lot of that industrial impact to the surrounding lands. For that reason, staff feels that this can be a compatible land use with the surrounding area and provide an added economic benefit. And looking at the impact to the provision of public services, County Road 174 is complete in terms of infrastructure for that matter, and generally the growth in the area will be supportive as the infrastructure continues expanding, that this use should be able to utilize that and not create that much of an impact to those public services. But again, we will be looking at this in more detail when it comes to the site development plan to be able to really understand those impacts further. And the same thing goes for the environment as well, that we're leaning on what we find from the site development plan process to understand those impacts to the area. And relatively speaking, generally that we feel that the rezoning does not pose that impact in this location. And in general, looking at traffic congestion, this was identified during the Planning Commission as well as the community meeting that there was some concern over traffic. It was provided by the applicant that traffic was being addressed to the best of their ability. But again, because a traffic study or traffic analysis wasn't completed as a part of this rezoning application, that's something that we would look to evaluate when it comes to a site development plan. And in general, looking at the health, safety, and welfare, generally speaking, the industrial commercial zoning does raise eyebrows, but we do feel like this type of use, that it's supportive to the agricultural industry, generally speaking, should not adversely impact the health, safety, and welfare, especially as much of this use is being conducted within their existing structures. So with that in mind, the general findings that this does complement the comprehensive plan, that this application meets the criteria of the zoning regulations, that it is in a way compatible with existing and allowable land uses in the surrounding area, and that the proposal will not adversely impact the health, safety, and welfare of county residents. The Planning Commission and Community and Development Services recommend the Board of County Commissioners approve the requested Potestio rezone RZ 210073, subject to the following conditions. In general, the public hearing sign to be removed within 7 days of this decision, that this rezoning shall not become effective until fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the rezone exhibit is recorded, that this recordation shall occur within 180 days. Further, that the applicant will receive approval of a site development plan prior to the recordation of the rezone exhibit, record and provide the easements requested by Core Cooperative to CDS prior to recordation of the rezone exhibit, another thing that had come out of the referral process. Providing CDS with a copy of an approved change in occupancy permit from the Elbert County Building Department prior to recordation of the rezone exhibit, and also to complete a septic inspection with the Public Health Department and provide that approval documentation to CDS as well. And that'll wrap my presentation.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. Any questions for staff at this time? Nope. Okay. I'd invite the applicant up to, excuse me, add anything you may want to what was previously briefed.
Thank you, guys. Jake Potestio from Potestio Brothers Equipment. A couple things, and Matt pretty well covered that front to back, top to bottom. Yep. I said thank you, guys, and Matt covered that pretty well, top to bottom. As he said, this was bought as a commercial property, and we're purely trying to get in compliance with the county. So obviously, we want to follow all the needed items to get to that. Question, if I may, for my own knowledge and also to throw out on the table. As far as the site plan, the way that Rick had it as whatever it was zoned as, due to the Full Red Archery being a retail facility open to public, and we have removed that, and it's by appointment only with 4 people on site, as we feel that we've cut the traffic down with approximately 4 people max there at all times. Is there an existing site plan that can be used, because we have not changed the structures and we're not proposing any future changes or additions? It was more or less, I guess, some basic wording is what Rick was doing when his folks were in there wrenching on iron. That's what our folks are doing, and it's a change of name and ownership, in my opinion. But is that possibly something that we could look at with an existing site plan that was done then?
Since you're here, do we have a site plan that was approved through the SUR process when it was full rut?
Yes, I believe it was completed in 2009, but I believe that was tied only to the full rut archery use. So I would have to get into the specifics with that approval to see if that would cover or have allowances for what's currently going on the property, or if that traffic analysis would even be applicable. That's something that I can't answer at this time for certain.
Okay. It seems like the site plan should have all the existing buildings and whatnot. There may be some additional notes or, I don't know who created the site plan, if it was High Plains Survey or something that already has the graphics available. It ought
Sure.
to be a fairly quick process on the actual physical plan.
Yeah, because I think for that matter, really what we were trying to look at would be essentially the buffering and screening, the lighting, the traffic. Those were the items that were important to us based on what we had heard during the community meeting and again during the planning commission hearing. The only thing is that I don't know of any area within our regulations that would allow for that special use to apply for what's going on currently.
Right, now I get that. I think the rezone's appropriate. And again, if traffic's, just having seen it in operation when it was full rut, I can't imagine you're exceeding the traffic that was in and out of there when.
No,
and,
sir.
And it was a dirt road at the point, so there's a little more
Yep.
area traffic, but you're not adding to it.
Right. We feel that we've, like I said, cut the traffic, you know, with four employees in there building iron indoors, and the lot is pure storage of machines. The full rep building is cold storage. No water onto the facility, not being used for anything other than that. So I definitely feel that the traffic is a null and void, and I was just, like I said, for my own knowledge, just if there was something on hand that would expedite the process, and it feels like an object that isn't needed for this, in my opinion.
Okay. Sounded like the request was primarily to just document some issues, like whether it was downcast lighting or other notations to put on a.
And as far as the lighting, and this did come up, and Matt said it in the last meeting, excuse me, the lighting, legitimately nothing has changed on the facilities. It's existing lighting that was there prior. All we did was turn them on for security on the amount of dollars we have sitting out there.
I'm not sure your thoughts are. To me, if nothing is changing, I could see a site plan requirement triggered if there were any submissions for additional building permits or changes, but I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, just one comment is when this was approved the first time for the archery thing there, 174 was a dirt road.
Yes, sir.
Now it's a little bit more advanced than that.
Yep.
So even if the traffic stayed the same, and I agree with what you said, but even if it stayed the same, there's more capabilities on that road than were then. I, like Chris, feel like the buildings are there, and if we can get them recognized and their use, then the site plan should be relatively elementary.
Thank you.
You still have to have it, but
Right.
it's...
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was an existing one prior due to in basic, same operation, different ownership and different name. I didn't know if that was a possibility.
I don't...
Yeah, I think, you know, CDS can look at that and see what was appropriate, because it's hard for us to say without seeing what's already there.
I understand.
And has there been any additional buildings since that 2009 SUR?
No, sir.
Everything's the same.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
The only difference is we hauled out an awful lot of trash.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I think probably the site plan that was in existence with any notations that need to be made for specific uses is probably fine, but if you're not anticipating any changes, I know lots of traffic studies have been done in that area. I mean, Spring Valley has renewed theirs several times and took into account what's there currently.
Yeah, CJ and Jim should.
In their most recent
Yes, sir.
subdivision applications, so I'm not tremendously concerned with personally not tremendously concerned with any changes in traffic in that area. I mean, we always kind of reserve the right as the county to do studies to see
Right.
something's changed, but there's more apt to be traffic load coming from residential development in that area than yourself. Matthew, could you pull up the conditions again? Just so.
I can go back and forth as needed. And really with the site development plan, making that argument is because we're evaluating a change in occupancy permit that's being requested by the building department as a building permit. Per regulation, anytime a building permit's necessitated for something that isn't residential, that becomes a site development plan. So the condition is to follow the zoning regulations, essentially.
Yeah, and I think in that case, I mean, we're really looking at a site plan a renewed site plan that reflects just a current date under the current zoning, not necessarily a full process. I mean, at this point to go back and, I mean, to, buffering and screening and, I mean, adding additional things to the area doesn't seem to be appropriate when nothing has changed tremendously. I assume you're leaving the big arrow?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They did all the dirt work around it.
Yeah.
And I already called Scott Kellogg to initiate getting a septic report done.
Easement's no issue.
Is that a possibility of something we can do as far as the site plan is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, from what Matthew said, just to have a site plan that's consistent with the new zoning, I think
Right.
is a requirement, but
Right.
it should be a renewal, and I don't know, obviously, who drew the original one, but.
So really, in that situation, a lot of those application items are similar between the rezone and the site plan. It's just the addition of a landscape plan, a lighting plan, things of that nature, just so that we have something on file that attests to the impacts of the property, just so that we can have that type of analysis, generally speaking, with community members reinforcing their statements from the community meeting. That really made that a comfortable condition to add, because that's the mechanism where we can really analyze those items and make sure that there's no offsite impact.
Well, I was going to say, essentially those same items with if there's no changes anticipated or requested, then it should be I'd hate to say a paperwork drill, because you'd still require some analysis, but I think it's just to make sure we don't
I understand.
leave things hanging, or,
Yep.
If you decide to move to a different location, we're not working through this with another industrial owner after
Right.
the fact that
Yep.
does want to make changes, so. With that discussion, are you comfortable with that being
Yeah.
a condition? Okay.
Yep.
And the rest of them you're good with? Okay, do you have any other questions, or?
Yeah, this is 35 acres. I can't imagine that landscaping and things like that would be of any impact. And the road, like I said earlier, the road itself is much better than it was back when it was approved in the first place. If you'll accept the conditions of approval, I have no objection.
All righty, appreciate that. I don't believe we asked for public comment, but I will at this time. I will close public comment and accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Potestio Brothers rezone RZ 21-0073, including the conditions of approval.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve RZ 21-0073 with the conditions of approval presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. Motion carries. I'd accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion, we close public hearing on Potestio Brothers rezone case RZ-21-0073.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. We're out of public hearing. Congratulations.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate you.
All righty, there being no, yes, you are. This is a free country.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We are adjourned.